Good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. Really excited to have you participate in this live webinar with us today. My name is Christian Ogenfus. I'm one of the founders of Napa Valley Wine Academy, and it is our great pleasure today to be partnering with the Wines of Portugal to bring you this live webinar. A couple of housekeeping issues before we get started. I will reveal the answers to the poll questions here in the live chat momentarily. A quick comment, we will be taking questions today during the live webinar. If you go ahead and use the Q&A function inside of Zoom, most of you are probably Zoom experts by now, thanks to the pandemic. Go ahead and put those questions in the Q&A box and we will get to those at the end of the broadcast. Now, I know many of you have received your wines already. I know there's a few of you who have not because of delays due to the horrific fires taking place here in California. We do apologize about that, but it is a situation beyond our control. The good news is we are recording this webinar, so you will be able to taste along with the winemakers in the recorded version once your wines arrive, and we will make the link to the recorded webinar available to you. Just a quick reminder about the hashtags to use in case you are active on social media. We would really appreciate you sharing your thoughts and experiences on social media with your followers, and you can find the hashtags here on the screen. Go ahead and for those of you who have your wines, go ahead and have those open and have 2 glasses at hand. You should have received also the tasting sheet that goes along with the wine kits. If not, I will go ahead and post that link so you can access it in the live chat function as well. Okay. Now it is my great pleasure to introduce our host for today. His name is Eugenio Jardim. He is a native of Brazil, but moved to San Francisco in 1988. From 2001 to 2013, he was the wine director at San Francisco's very famous restaurant Jardiniere, where him and his team also won a 4-star award from the San Francisco Chronicle for their wine service. And in 2010, he was named Sommelier of the Year by Sunset magazine. And he is often a featured sommelier and lecturer at international and national wine competitions and seminars. He is also, in 2015, he was the first person to be selected to become the Wines of Portugal ambassador here in the US, where he heads up educational and marketing initiatives for the US. And he is also director of wine studies at the San Francisco Cooking School and an adjunct professor at the CIA Culinary Institute of America at Greystone here in Napa Valley. Eugenio, welcome. We are so excited to have you here today.
I'm excited to be here. Is my screen sharing functioning properly today?
It is perfect.
Fabulous. Hello, everyone. Good morning. For those of you here in the West Coast, it's been quite a ride of a summertime here for us with fog, heat, fires, you name it, right? And now we have hurricanes in Baja California. So what else is coming, right? So thank you all for joining us, Sip in Place with Portugal. This is an initiative that was designed to bring you closer to us and us closer to you during this time of isolation. Our winemakers are all present and they are all brilliant and super talented, make wines from all the diverse regions of Portugal, and we can't wait to share them with you. Thank you, Christian, and his organization for putting this together so brilliantly. This has been a lovely experience. But without further ado, we can start talking about Portugal in the sense that Portugal has, I've often liked to make a joke that if I run out of things to talk about Portugal in a wine seminar, I can always talk about the beauty of the country. And as you can see, there's plenty to talk about, plenty to see, plenty to enjoy in this beautiful country. The hospitality of the Portuguese people are second to none. The food is extraordinary. The wines are even better than the food. I say that. Um, the beaches are wonderful. The mountains are gorgeous. The cheeses, it goes on and on and on. I took this shot of my summer palace, and I want to invite you guys to come and join me. And Christian will definitely bring you all on his private jet, and we'll all kidding, but wouldn't that be a dream? So without further ado, let's get into the matter of the country of Portugal. Portugal has this uniqueness. I've often talked about countries in such a large scale because I was born in Brazil. I lived in the United States. We're all so gigantic in terms of land mass. The Portuguese land mass is actually quite small and compact. Portugal is the southern western coast of Europe. If you judge by proximity and you look in this map, it's actually closer to Morocco than it is to the Netherlands, for example, or to Norway. But it is a truly European country with huge Mediterranean characteristics to it. Portugal is about 350 by 150 miles wide. For those of us here in California, you can fit 4 Portugals inside California, and you can still spare Lake Tahoe for us to go on vacation. So there's room to spare. It's a quarter of the size of our estate, but it has a long history of winemaking. Viticulture, some archaeological findings dated back to the Bronze Age. So we have at least 2,000 years of history of winemaking in Portugal. And in this small little country, there is such a topographic variation. So the terroirs and the number of microclimates are endless because of the mountains, the plains, the sea, the rolling hills, the jagged river valleys, and etc. So Portugal offers a lot in terms of possibilities for viticulture. There's about 250 native grape varieties. Bear in mind, native, not endemic. There are some that are endemic too. We have grapes that migrated to Portugal and made a home in Portugal. They are not originally Portuguese. However, 250 plus have not been able to be, in terms of DNA tracing, have not been able to be traced back to the Caucasus Mountains, to Georgia, to the Middle East, where the wine culture began. So these are grapes that are so unique because they developed in complete isolation in the Iberian Peninsula, which I find it fascinating. It's a blessing and a curse because when you're trying to compare with other things, it becomes a little difficult because there is no parenting, there is no brotherhood, there is no cousinry. It's tough to compare, but easy to enjoy. In 1986, I think the history of Portuguese wines will be told in pre-1986 and post-1986. So much change and changed for the better. Portugal joined the European Union, and with that came huge investments into the wine sector. The whole DO system was rewritten, and now with investments on the wine sector, wineries were able, producers, and these producers here are witness of that, were able to update their wine equipment, their wineries. Some of them were able to really add technology to their traditional way of making wines. But others, to be honest with you, first time got refrigeration. So the wine was a very family affair in Portugal until then, except for the port and the Madeira industry. But the still wines, which is what we're most interested in and excited about nowadays, really have enjoyed a significant improvement since. That improvement attracted a very young generation, and you will see several of them today in this presentation, because the wine business, as we jokingly say, was a male-dominated business by cranky old men with big mustaches, and now there's this beautiful, talented, young people that are really attracted to the business now because wine became fun. And instead of moving to the cities and abandoning the countryside, now people are looking back at their countryside and joining in the family businesses. And this has brought a new life to Portugal. The wines reflect that because there is this youthful energy about the wines that we're very excited to share with you today. Portugal never abandoned the tradition, just incorporated technology and modernity into it. Another interesting fact is that females became more attracted to this previously male-dominated business. And now 60% of the enologists in Portugal, the graduates, are women. And we have three extraordinary women on this session today that will tell you about what they've done and how interesting it has been for them, this journey. Portugal, as I mentioned to you about all the great varieties that are native, but Portuguese also are really promoting these varieties, and they do put a lot of focus of their winemaking into the native varieties, and therefore Portugal kicks everyone's butt in terms of percentage of indigenous variety per 1,000 square kilometer. Is the champion in Europe. Have a look at these numbers and you see how much further Portugal is and how much more importance Portugal gives and puts into the native varieties. That would not be possible if Portugal didn't have this incredible patchwork of soil types. Today we're going to have wines from the down region, which is in the middle of that orange salmon color of granitic soils. Then we're going to have wines from the Douro, which are basically embedded in this amazing band of old schist soils. Then we're going to try wines from Lisbon, which have a combination of sand and limestone. Then we go to the Alentejo, where they have everything. All types of soils, including the beautiful marble soils. So this map makes me really happy. I think it's beautifully demonstrating to you what important part the soils play in the style of wines you're going to try. But that's not the whole story, because Portugal is also really marked by these climatic influences. Portugal is squeezed between two massive bodies. One is a body of water called the Atlantic Ocean. The other one is a body of land called Spain. We rather call them the neighbors. There's this joke in Portugal that we say that there's only two things that come from Spain: bad winds and bad marriages. The marriage references because the King of Spain married the Queen of Portugal and invaded Portugal for over 50 years, and the Portuguese still remember that. But that influence of Spain, if you've ever traveled inside into the interior of Spain, you know that the climate is really dry, almost semi-arid. There is a lack of moisture in the air that really dictates and demonstrates that half of the country is under the continental influence, and that is Spain. The other half of the country in the coastline is really marked by this very cold, salty, windy, we're bringing inland a lot of moisture. Unlike California, you guys know this because California, the mountain ranges follow the coastline. In Portugal, the mountains do not follow the coast. As you can see, there's all these river valleys, all these lines that you can see on the map are marking the most important rivers of Portugal. And they basically open the land up to the Atlantic influence. And that cools down that zone, the zone on your left and marked the Atlantic influence. And you can notice that on the energy, on the vibrance, and on the acidity on the wines. There's a little bit of a balmer, calmer influence on the south with the Mediterranean. This is the mouth of the Mediterranean that actually really demonstrates and plays a big influence on the wines of Southern Alentejo and also on the Algarve, which is needless to say that if you look in the corner of your map, there's the Azores and the Madeira, which are basically surrounded by the ocean. So it's very Atlantic influenced. So what that does is that there is this lush green vegetation on the western coast of Portugal, that the vineyards and the forests are all very bright and green, and there's a lot of moisture in the air. There's a coolness coming from the cold waters of the Atlantic, which, unlike on the east coast of the United States, those waters never warm up. It's like our Pacific is at best cold, at worst freaking cold. So we have here regions that we know very well: Vinho Verde, Bairrada, Lisboa, Peninsula de Setúbal, and then the islands of the Azores and Madeira, which are Atlantic-influenced regions. So if you move closer to the neighbors, to the Spanish border, look what that does to the landscape, where the mountains get higher and drier and hotter. If you have this type of haircut, which I highly recommend, don't go there in the summertime because it gets like over 115 degrees. I've been there on the 4th of July one year and decided that I'll never return on the 4th of July. It was really hot and dry. That's another interesting thing that really dictates the style of wines that are made here. These are the regions of Trás-os-Montes, Porto Indoro, Távora em Barossa, the Down, Beira Interior, Tejo, and the Alentejo, which are considered the continental influenced regions of Portugal. And then we have the Algarve. Anyone that makes wines in Algarve to me is a hero, because if you have a choice of going to the beach or going to the winery to work, I mean, come on, look at how gorgeous this is. This is the Mediterranean coast of Portugal. This is where every Portuguese family flocks in the summertime for the right reasons. It is a beautiful region, but also with lots of sandy soils and a very mild summers, mild winters. So it promotes for a very good long growing season. So, Christian said in the beginning on his very flattering introduction of myself that I was a sommelier for many years. And it is true, I'm guilty. And what Portugal did for me as a sommelier, it really made my job a lot easier, because you all know, we all want to have one up on each other. I want my peers to walk into my restaurant and discover things. And Portugal gave me that opportunity. People would walk in and say, "What? Encruzado? What is that?" I was like, "It's the white Burgundy of Portugal. Have a sip." And I always had an opportunity to open people's eyes and palates to a new experience. And that to me was so gratifying. And to people as well, because the Portuguese wines, as you're going to notice on this tasting, do not rely on over oaking or over extracting their wines. Their wines remain very pure, very fresh, but also there's a savory quality to them that makes them incredible food wines. And when you get your bill, then is when you get really happy, because by comparison to Burgundy, some of the top Italian wines or Napa Valley wines, Portuguese wines is still relatively very cost effective. And so instead, and this works for me because I'm a big proponent. If you can have 2 bottles, why have 1? Yeah, go for the 2, and the Portuguese wines won't break the bank. But they over-deliver. And if you ever find yourself like, yeah, that's very fun, but where am I going to shove Encruzado or Alfrocheiro in my wine list? Figure it out. There are many categories. The more categories you can put in your wine list, the more exciting people will be that you've done your research. I did Iberian whites, Iberian reds, or Iberic Peninsula Iberica, sometimes just for a little fun and pronunciation there. So I've always recommend people not to be too concerned on not being able to speak Portuguese. Very few of us do, but because you cannot, you were never born saying Zinomavro, for example, or Gruneveltlina, or Velschriesling. Those are words that we learned. So the Portuguese language is learnable, but not necessarily so. So don't stress about pronouncing correctly what's in the label. Just enjoy what's in the glass. And that is, to me, what makes Portugal so unique. And I think that the worst type of wine session or wine tasting is the one that does not include wine drinking. And it's time for us to do that. And the first wine that you should have in your glass is the wine number 1. And I'm going to invite this phenomenal, highly respected master, Luis Lourenço, from the region of Down, to tell us a little bit about the wine we're tasting today. Hello, Luis.
Hello, how are you? Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Luis Lourenço. And first of all, I wish all of you, your dear ones and friends are fine. I know about the terrible fires that are devastating California, so I hope that everyone is fine. Well, I'm one of the owners of Quinta dos Roques. Quinta dos Roques is a family wine company. So the other owners are my wife, my 2 sons, my daughter, and my last but not least, definitely, is my mother-in-law. Mother-in-law that with 88 years goes to the winery every day to check how works are evolving. So, Quinta dos Roques was indeed the solution that our family found out to keep the family lands in the family ends. And so we decided to plant and replant some vineyards, to buy more parcels, to have an economically viable product to offer to our customers. Indeed, in the end of the 90s, we also bought another property, Quinta das Maias, upper in the mountain, the Serra da Estrela mountain. And with that, we have a variety of soils and microclimates that allow us to make very different wines dependent on the grape varieties and on the place we grow the grapes. The Quinta dos Roques is located, as Eugenio already told you, in the Down region, center north of Portugal. It's a high plateau surrounded by mountains. The soil is mainly granitic sand, although in Quinta dos Roques we have a little bit of clay and schist to compose the diversity of our properties. And we used only traditional and regional grape varieties. Some of them are really indigenous to the region, namely the Touriga Nacional or the Encruzado that we are going to talk a little bit later.
Which is interesting that, Luis, we don't find Encruzado in many other places in Portugal either. It's specific to the down region, right?
Yes, until very recently, it was only planted in the down. But recently, some other producers, namely from the Douro or from the Alentejo, they are making already some experiments with Encruzado. With good results, but let's see how things will develop. But the main production of Encruzado, it's indeed in the down region. In these 2 properties, in Quinta dos Roques, we have 35 hectares. In Quinta das Maias, we have 25. Indeed, in Quinta das Maias, we are in organic viticulture, and we have certified organic wines. In Quinta dos Roques, we are in integrated production method, roughly sustainable agriculture, because in Quinta dos Roques, we have 35 hectares, but 12 different parcels. And some of our neighbors are not organic. So certification would be really, at least in my opinion. So I decided not to go through the certification, although what we do in the vineyards and in the wine is pretty much the same as we do in Quinta das Maias.
Well, one interesting thing that I think, and Luis, for the sake of time, we have to continue. What I love about Encruzado is that I have to tell you this, I've used some of your bottles in blind tastings with friends, and we have Chardonnays from around the world, like Chablis, Burgundy, like Bourgogne or Pouligny-Montrachet and things like that, and great Chardonnays from Australia, from California. And I throw an Encruzado in the middle, and everyone calls Premier Cru Chablis. So congratulations to you. Thank you for sharing this delightful wines with us. And hopefully we'll have time for a Q&A at the end. Thank you, Luis, very much for participating.
Okay, my pleasure. Thank you.
Now I would like to invite Sandra Tavares. Sandra comes from a family vineyard called Quinta de Chocapalha in the region of Lisbon, which is just north of the city of Lisboa. And Sandra is going to tell us about this another quintessential Portuguese variety named Castelão. Sandra, welcome.
Hi. Thank you, Jenny. Thank you, Christian, and to Napa Valley Wine Academy and Wines of Portugal to setting this up. It's a great pleasure to be with you and to share our wines and these stories. So Quinta de Chocapalha, it's my parents' estate. It's located, as Eugenia was telling, in Lisbon. We are 50 kilometers northwest of Lisbon, so with a great influence of the Atlantic Ocean. So, which for me, it's essential on the style of the wines, because it's all the wines are very vibrant, fresh, and classic. And because also the style of soil, we have it's clay calcareous, permits to have a very long ripening cycle. And Castelão, it's a variety that it's really widely planted all over Portugal. But I think it has, depending on the soils and the climate, it has totally different styles and characters. And since my father, he planted all these 50 hectares since the 80s, Castelão was one of the main varieties planted here at the property. And I always loved the styles, and because here it gets a very different style. So it's a very elegant, fresh, vibrant. It's less concentrated as other regions are, but I love this expression of fruit and more on the red berries, but also tobacco and spices and some herbal notes, which is very fresh and savory and gastronomic red, which is perfect with or without food. So it's a very versatile red.
Yeah. Sandra, what I love about the Castelão that you guys make, is that it has this bright raspberry fruit flavor to it, sour cherries. The fruits are all red, but structurally speaking, it is so youthful and vibrant. But I tell people, whenever you want to fool your palate, thinking that you're having a full body red wine, drink a glass of Chocapalha Castelão, because it's light, it's bright, it's youthful, it's refreshing, but it gives you that full enjoyment of a big red wine. But I love the tannins are so well integrated. The fruit and the acidity are impeccably together. And your vineyards are grown organically as well?
Yes, we are organically certified, and also it's because these vineyards are all over 30 years old. So it has very small productions, and all the fermentation, it's with very little extraction, because I wanted to have this feeling of this lightness and vibrant fruit. And after it was aged for 16 months in very used and neutral barrels, just order to have a very natural integration of the tannins. So I think it's a very elegant expression of Castelão.
Well, I think you've succeeded in giving us something delightful, and also not masking the character of the grape variety, which is what we are here to learn. It's what Castelão is about, and this to me is one of the best examples. Bravo, Sandra. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much. Thank you all.
Absolutely. I would like to now invite João Pedro. And you guys allow me to zigzag between whites and reds, because I think you're all professionals and you can do it, because I wanted us to get a complete sense of what Douro is about. Douro, as you know, the most famous region in Portugal, one of the most beautiful in the world, a UNESCO heritage site, the oldest demarcated and regulated region in the world, dating back to 1756. To protect the production of port wines. So this is drinking history. But one thing, and Sandra is also a winemaker in the Douro, and so is Joana, and so is the other Sandra as well. Everyone makes wine in the Douro. But one thing that always gets overlooked, to João Pedro, is the white wines. Everyone is so focused on the reds, and they don't pay attention to how great the white wines are. Please tell us about this.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that being the Douro one of, or the biggest mountain region in the world, I think it has the potential of producing amazing wines, amazing white wines. I think because of the history with ports, it was easier to start with the reds, but nowadays we have amazing white wines. Of course, that the history about still wines in the Douro is very recent. Everybody or almost everybody started with port, just like ourselves. When in 1918 we founded the company, but things develop. Our business developed, our company developed. So 30 years ago, actually it was really 30 years ago, in 1990, when we started to produce Douro still wines, we actually saw that that was a nice way to go, because the soil is there, the grapes are there, it's great fruit, very hot place to produce fresh white wines, but I think that we managed. We use in this wine only 2 grapes, for instance, only 2 grapes, Arinto and Códega. Our Arinto, we use the clone directly from Bucelas, meaning that you will find some salinity there, which comes from there and not from an Arinto from the Douro Valley, of course. We vinify the 2 grapes separately. They ferment separately in oak for 9 months. So that's why the wine has a different color. It's a pale yellow.
We're having some trouble with your
also
audio.
the toasty notes that you find. Sorry, but you hear me how?
Your audio is interrupting, but that's okay, because I wanted to interject just to tell people that Bucelas, when you mentioned that your Arinto comes from Bucelas, Bucelas is the birthplace of the Arinto grape. It's very close to Lisbon. You can actually see the airplanes landing at the airport from Bucelas, this small little limestone valley that has the best examples of Arinto in Portugal. So it's quintessential that what João Pedro said, that they brought Arinto from Bucelas to add the salinity to the wine. João Pedro, are these vineyards in higher altitude or near the river?
Yeah, they are in between. Firstly, the estate, our estate where this wine comes from is in the Douro Superior, meaning it's very close to Spain already, in Numão. The altitude of the vineyards are in between 500 and 600 meters, which is important to give the freshness to the wine. Also the soil, because there in our estate in Valcavalos, it's a transition between schist and granite. So the minerality that you find in the wine comes from the granite soil or the transition soil. It's a wine that has a potential of aging incredible. As I said, it stays in oak for 9 months and then in bottle for another 6. Only then we release it to the market. And even though, honestly, I think that the wine is still pretty young. It's a 2018 wine. I think that I usually say, joking, that it will be it will be in very good shape or better shape in Thanksgiving for the turkey, because I think it will go really well with the turkey. And for us, for Christmas, for the cods.
That's a great suggestion. And also, I also recommend people don't buy 1 bottle or 2, buy a case. So you can open a bottle every 3 or every 6 months and see how the wine develops. João Pedro, thank you. The wine is stunning. It shows this energy, this vibrancy of the Valley of the Douro that people don't expect, because we're so used to the majestic red wines. And when you find a white wine like that, like you produce, like Sandra produces, it's really refreshing. So thank you. Thank you very much for participating on this with us. And I would like to invite back Sandra Tavares, because the woman is really busy. She has 2 projects, and this is her own project with her husband in the Douro Valley. Her husband is also a very well-known winemaker, very well respected, and they teamed up to create Wine and Soul. Sandra, tell us about.
Yes, so this project started in 2001. So as Jenny was telling it, we are both winemakers. Both of us are from wine families. Myself, I started in Lisbon, and George is originally from the Douro. He's already the 5th generation in port business. And in 2001, it was the same year we got married, we decided we wanted to make a wine together. And this was just to start and to make just one wine and to learn and to take our own risks. And so we start buying a very old vineyard in the Pinhão Valley, because we really love the Pinhão Valley. So we based our winery in Valmeniz, so it's a little town. And then step by step, we've been buying old vineyards in the area. So first was the vintage vineyard, which we only make 6,000 bottles.
And then old is that?
That vineyard is now 90 years old. And then step by step, this was in 2005, we start buying little plots surrounding the vintage vineyard, and also olive trees and pine trees and wild bushes and whatever. In order to create like a small quinta. And that's why we decided to produce this wine. It's not vintage, but it has a character of vintage. The idea was really to produce a wine that would express the old vines of the Douro. And old vines means that these vineyards are over 70 years old. It's a 50, we have an average of more than 30 varieties all together. And most of our vineyards are over 450 meters altitude, which permits to have a very good, it's southern exposure, but highly planted. So we have this combination of beautiful ripeness allied with freshness. And also what the old vines provides us, it's a great balance between good ripening cycle and good acidity levels.
And Sandra, oh, sorry for interrupting, but when you say old vines in America, there are no rules for old vineyards. You can call old vineyards a 10-year-old, a 50, a 90, but also in Portugal, there's another meaning, right? The vinhas velhas are the old ways of planting, right?
Exactly, especially in the Douro. Normally when we talk about old vines, the old vines are over 50 years old, because it's vineyards that they are planted field land, normally in the terraces with walls and high density of plantation. So these vineyards that we consider old. Vineyards below that, we consider younger vines, like 40 years old or something.
Yeah, I'm no longer can be considered a younger vine, so I'm very jealous. I'm part of the Vinhas Velhas. I'm a Vinho Velho. The wine is very interesting, and it is a blend of more than 30 varieties, correct? So that's what is interesting, and that would make it very fun for the point I was making earlier when sommeliers are going crazy. How am I going to list this on a wine list? Yeah, you can't list the varietals on this one. The page is not long enough. So the wine has this body, and it's really great to have the white and the red right next to each other, so you can see the potential of the region to excel on both. So thank you, Sandra. Thank you very much for bringing this beautiful wine to us. And now I want to, and by the way, Sandra is very humble, but Sandra has the title of being the first female winemaker in the Douro Valley. Isn't that correct?
Yes, for table wines, yes. Wine.
That's the only wine. Come on. So bravo, Sandra. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, and enjoy.
Yes, and now I want to bring someone else that is also part of this young generation of winemakers discovering the amazing possibilities in Portugal. And Joana Massanita started this company with her brother, Antonio Massanita. And if you are ever part of social media, it is impossible that you don't know who Antonio is, because the man loves his iPhone and he posts everywhere, and he's an iconic producer on the Alentejo. And Joana convinced him that they needed to make wine in the Douro. So Joana, tell us about this Massanita Douro Red.
Hi, Eugene. How are you?
Hello.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for this time and this moment to share my passion and my project with you guys. I hope you're enjoying beautiful wines being shown today. So I'm going to speak about my project. So my name is Joana Massanita. Me and my brother have been making wines for 15 years. And 10 years ago, I was invited to make wines here in Douro. And by coming here, and if you ever have the possibility to come to Portugal, please come to Douro, because it's the most beautiful. I would say, I will bet my neck that it's the best and most beautiful region in the world. So you must be here and you must come here to taste. And please come to taste at Massanita whenever you want. And as Eugenia said, we are a lot in Instagram and Facebook, so you can contact us anytime. So this project started by, you know, we have been making wines in Alentejo and also in Lisbon and Algarve. And when I came to Douro, I was completely amazed by the diversity of the Douro Valley. So we have almost every altitude, almost every exposition, different soils, and as Eugenia said, a numerous amount of grape varieties. They are local and also brought from, like the Arinto, brought from other regions. And by having all of this, we were a little bit confused in the beginning, because we didn't know which were the way, what was the way. And by Douro being a very traditional port region with very traditional techniques of making wine, we didn't identify ourselves with this. We wanted to do something that we recognize ourselves and that we understood that was our language. And we are 100% of terroir, and we are 100% of non-intervention winemaking. So basically, me and Antonio normally say that winemakers should be the ones not to mess the wine. So non-intervention, and we say wine over man, not man over wine. That's the base of our winemaking. So we started to explore, and we understood that we could do, Touriga Nacional, which is the queen of red grapes in Portugal. It's an amazing variety with such diversity, color, structure, acidity, aromatics, and everything. But we also had the old vines, like Sandra said, that were amazing with this freshness and elegance. And we found this vineyard with 140-year-old. So just after Phylloxera, she was a planter. And so she's really old, and she has this amount of variety, different grapes that bring this diverse thing to the wine, which is acidity and florally and different times of maturation, which gives a lot of complexity to the wines. So we decided...
Sorry for interrupting, but it's really...
No.
You're absolutely correct, because the wine is powerful, is assertive, but it has this feminine elegance to it. It has these violet notes and this lighter profile to it that is really charming.
Yes, and we wanted to bring, this, all of what Douro can give you in one bottle, which is almost scary. Yes, because you want to people to understand what is Douro, and you don't want to people understand you as a winemaker. Our job as winemakers is not make a mark on the wines. I don't want people to say, I know this is a Joana Massanita wine because I can feel her touch. I don't want people to say this. I want people to say, this smells like Douro. So that was the biggest goal for us. We didn't use any yeast, so it's wild yeast. Almost no addition of sulfur, very smooth and gentle contact with the skins. And some of the wine goes to barrel, but very used barrels just to know the micro oxidation, which I think is very, very good for the tannins and the structure of the wine. So it's we call it a Massanita way, but it's in the meaning that we are a non-interventional winemakers in the region. So we came to the Douro with no intention to do something our way, but with the intention to let Douro speak for itself. And since we don't have any tradition in the wine business, we started young. I was 21 and he was 23. No history in wines, so we had to make our own path with no, attachment to tradition and nothing, but very respectful of the land, which is the most important.
You've accomplished that, and if I've ever tasted place over process in a glass, that is here. Your wine is
Thank you.
You are terrific. My best regards to your brother as well. You guys are doing phenomenal work in the Douro and the Alentejo and the Azores. Keep up the good work. Thank you very much for participating.
Thank you so much, guys. And don't forget, buy Portugal and also buy a little bit of Douro if you can.
Well, Sandra Alves may have a couple of things to say about that, Joanna, because she is in the Alentejo region of Portugal. The Alentejo is this largest region in Portugal. It takes about a third of the country, and it really has an incredible array of terroirs and climates and influences from Spain, from the ocean, from the Mediterranean, from the mountains. So, Joanna, Sandra, do please tell us about Esporão, which is dear to everyone's heart. Esporão is one of the best known brands in the United States, doing extraordinary work in the Alentejo. So I'll ask Sandra Alves to tell us about the wine. She is the chief winemaker.
Thank you so much, Eugenie. Thanks so much for this, Christian. Thank you everyone for being here and attending us. And just a very quick note, we are just in the middle of harvest time, so I just leave my Aragonês, that is same as Tempranillo, so we call it Aragonês here in Alentejo. I just leave it just about an hour ago in the winery coming in, and I'm here just to talk and to hear my colleagues and all these wonderful presentation from all of you. Thank you so much. So just to reinforce what Eugenie was saying, so Alentejo, it's amazing. It's absolutely different from all the other regions. And it's this big area in Portugal, in south of Portugal, and Esporão is just located just in center of Alentejo. Just two quick notes for you. Well, first, Esporão is a quite old state. In matter of fact, these boundaries were founded in 1267, so it's a quite thing that's some centuries ago, as you can imagine. And another thing, because my time is very short, so another thing, just to let you know that our main concern, in matter of fact, is our biodiversity, our lands, our soils, and this led us to be one of the biggest vineyards, biggest organic certified vineyards in the world, with around 700 hectares certified as organic. Yeah, that's a really great challenge. And now a challenge for you that you are in that side is just try to say this word, Esporão. It's not an easy word, but please, that's your challenge for today. Just try to quite very Portuguese, very hard to say, but it's at the same time very interesting for you to try to say it. So, but today we are talking about our Esporão Reserve. Just, I'm quite sure that you have this bottle with you. And just to let you know that it's a very special wine for us, because it was our first wine that we produced here in state in our winery. The first harvest were in 1985. So, and every year we invite a different artist to label, to show an original work in our label. So it's in some way just to mix and just show the tradition of making wine with heart. So it's everything to do it. And this is a blend. So we use 40% Aragonês. Aragonês is the same as Tempranillo. Probably it's easy for you to understand it. We use some Alicante Boucher, some Trincadeira. Trincadeira is a very Portuguese, old-fashioned grape variety. It's amazing. And slightly like 5 to 10% of Cabernet Sauvignon. And please, I would like, because I'm the last one, so I would like to invite you to taste wine as well. Because I really believe that this wine tastes like Alentejo. Alentejo,
yes,
is warm.
The tinta, the Aragonês that that Sandra mentioned, that is the Tempranillo. In the north, in the Douro, is called Tinta Roriz. So it's the same grape variety. The
Just to be more hard to understand.
Yes,
That's true.
Trincadeira that she mentioned is also known in the north as Tinta Amarela. So we have these double names for grapes in Portugal because we feel, right, Sandra, that regionally they express very differently.
Exactly. Because as you can see, Portugal, and as Eugene explained in his presentation, Portugal is a very small country, but that's completely different from north to south and from east to west, and that's what allows us to make such a different range of great wines, and that's what we have better. So about this,
I mentioned something also. One very interesting thing that is put on that when I visited for the first time that I was so impressed with it is that they maintain an ampelographic vineyard with about 180 varieties. You walk by the vineyard and each row has a plaque with a different name on it. And words that I've never seen or heard in my life. And here and there, I see a grape on the winemaker somewhere in the country. And I was like, oh, I saw that in a vineyard in Esporão. So you guys are always experimenting.
Yeah. It's our nursery. We have so many different projects about different things. That's another way to maintain our biodiversity and to take care of our vineyards, and also to make to be prepared for the climate changes and all the challenge that we have day after day, as you know. But this ampelographic field, it's amazing because we have all these. In matter of fact, it's 180 different grape varieties, 10 hectares of different grape varieties, and we have this opportunity to taste it and to vinify and to choose the most important. And well, for one side, maintain these old grape varieties, and for the other side, just understand which ones are the better for the future. That will be in Tejo.
Yeah, that's really important. And this could open up a whole new seminar, a whole new presentation on how Portugal is leading the pack on preparing for climate change and for global warming. And I thank you, Sandra, for your hard work. Thank you for stepping away from harvest and joining us.
It's like a freshness, just whoa. Good.
Condition. And in a few, we have, I just have a closing remarks to make, and I would like to turn it back to Christian because he may have some questions. And whenever they ask a question, I would like the winemaker to come back and respond it. So in this, thank you, Sandra. In this screen, you see why Portugal is relevant to me. 250 plus native varieties, a diversity of soils, climates, the people of Portugal, their hospitality, their talent, their dedication to the preservation of the traditional varieties. So Portugal, to me, is a treasure chest, and you need to explore it, give it a chance, and you will be charmed by it the same way I've been for quite a few years now. Thank you all for giving me the time of your day and to participate here with us. I'll turn it back to you, Christian.
Great. Incredible. Thank you so much, Eugenio, and all the winemakers as well. You sparked a lot of questions, so we do have a lot of questions to work through. The first one is from someone I think you know, Jared, Eugenio. Jared asks, made a comment about encruzado, and you mentioned that you often put that in a blind tasting and people get it as Premier Cru Chablis. Any other notes? He asks, any other notes that you find, and how would you describe this wine to a guest?
Oh, if that question is for me, I think Louise should be the one answering. But to me, what I find is that it ages. As it ages, Jared, it becomes the texture becomes nutty and creamier, and reminds me sometimes of the way Merceau ages. The wine has a lot of glycerin on the palate, and the acidity. Here's the key: the acidity never drops. And I find that so charming. And that's why those are the other notes: the yellow fruits, the texture, and the acidity.
Great. And this question actually is for Luis, another question about his encruzado. And question, Luis, is do you treat this similar to Chardonnay during the winemaking process as far as oak treatment is concerned and malolactic conversion?
Not really. To begin with, we don't do malolactic. In Portugal, as a warm climate country, we need all the acidity we have in the grapes. So we don't do any malolactic in any of our wines. In terms of oak, this wine, 50% was fermented in new French oak barrels. The other 50% in stainless steel vats. Because I use the oak to imprint a little bit more complexity to the wine, because encruzado naturally is a little bit neutral in terms of flavor. So in a way like Chardonnay. And so with this oak treatment, only 50%, it imprints that complexity that I want for the encruzado. The other 50% stainless steel fermented and aged, although with what I call the technological batonnage, because I leave the fine lees in the stainless steel vat, and then with nitrogen in the bottom of the stainless steel vat, I stir the lees to imprint a little bit more fat, a little bit more volume to the wine.
Great.
Thank
Great.
you, Louise.
And this is a question for, I think all the winemakers would be great to get your input. Bertie from Som Table asks, what is this year's vintage looking like? How is it progressing?
Well,
we'll go with you, Luis, first.
Okay, a little bit awkward because this year, all the year was strange. We had, for instance, in the down, we had a very heavy frost in 1st of April, and which decreased a lot the quantity of the grapes. Then it was very warm and then dry all through the next months. Even now, the maturation is going fine, although there is some heterogeneous behavior among different parcels. You can have, for instance, an encruzado parcel, and we have them already from 1-2 weeks from harvest, and we have other parcels of encruzado that will need more time. Indeed, the down region is one of the latest regions in Portugal to make the harvest.
Oh, wow.
And so, for instance, we didn't begin yet, probably next week with the rosé wines.
How is in the Douro, Sandra and Joanna, whoever wants to speak, how the Douro is doing for this vintage?
Yes, we started 1 week ago already with the whites. And then it has been a very challenging year because we had lots of rain during spring, and then suddenly it was very warm from June, July. But I think so we had to now we have been starting harvesting a little bit earlier than we were expecting in order to get the balance. So we have for the whites we have a little bit less alcoholic degree, but very nice acidity levels. But we are speaking in altitude. So this is our vineyards for our whites are located in 600, 700 meters altitude. And yesterday I started here in Lisbon. So I'm in Chocapalha now in Lisbon, and we started yesterday. And here, because it's cooler and we have the Atlantic influence, here in terms of the whites are very balanced, and we have fantastic.
Terrific.
I'm very happy.
Terrific.
The reds we will start next week.
Joanna.
Here, I normally are more or less balanced with the rest of the region, but because all of my whites are in the Baixo Corgo, so Douro extends for a long way on Portugal, all the way from Spain and almost to the coast, like 80 kilometers from the coast. All of my whites are near to the coast, nearest to the coast, and 700 meters altitude. So at this point, I don't even have 8 degrees alcohol. So I normally start to do my whites like when almost everyone has most of the reds in. So all of my whites are from very, very, very fresh areas from Douro, which is not very common in Douro. As you know, Eugenia, a very hot region. But because the whites are from these specific vineyards that are in high altitude and in Baixo Corvo, my vintage always starts further away from others. Where I at this moment, because I'm in Ferrão, which is between Régua and Pinhão, near to the river, like on top of the river, I'm very close. And this reds, where I have the Touriga Nacional, of course, this is more advanced with around 12 degrees. So generally, this red vineyard comes first in white, but I haven't started vineyard crop and vintage in Douro yet. So I'm still, you know, arranging the winery, taking care of little stuff and waiting for the grapes to be in perfect shape.
Yeah, well, good luck to you guys. And João Pedro, I'm still drinking your wine. Delicious, thank you. Christian, any other questions?
Well, just a question real quick about the 3 vintages that were tasted, 2016, 2017, and the 18. Any of those particular vintages that you think stand out as the best vintage?
Wow, that is a loaded question, because as you notice, everyone in Portugal is experiencing something different. If I am not mistaken, 2017 was the year of the fires in Portugal. And I think Sandra Tavares told me that she started harvesting in late July. Was that, Sandra, was that 2017? That was a really hot year?
Yes, it was a very hot and very dry one. Was one of the driest years ever. We have a big drought all over Portugal. But we started in the Douro 15th of August. In Alentejo, I think, yes, in Alentejo, I think they started earlier. But in the Douro, we started 15th of August with the whites.
Sandra Alves, when did you start it in 2017?
In 2017, we start on 8th August, so a week early.
Okay,
and,
so I have a suggestion. We have 3 regions here. We have Douro, we have Down, and we have Alentejo. So Douro, Sandra, what's your favorite vintage? 16, 17, or 18?
They're so different, you know, and I think that's the beauty of wine.
Very diplomatic.
That's so true.
No, but it's true. It's true. It depends the style of wine you like, or depends of when you want to drink it, or if you want to age it, or so it's. I know 16 and 18, they are very elegant and very vibrant and fresh berries and fresh fruit. 17 is bigger, but probably they are more explosive in flavors and in fruit. And so it depends really what you want it, and what you enjoy it, and which type of food, or if you want to.
I definitely vote that the best vintage is the last vintage. So always when that's the best vintage. Exactly. So Massanita Red is 18. That's the best vintage ever, of course.
Luis, yes, Luis, in the Down, it was one of these 3 vintages much better than the other?
For me, the most Down vintage was 16. Fresh, flavorful, light wines, both in whites and reds. 17, because as Sandra said, was much drier and hotter. So the wines are a little bit more full-bodied. The alcohol went a little bit upper than usual in the Down. So they are great wines, I think, with great age potential. But for me personally, in a way, I prefer 16. And contrary to Joanna, 16 is already sold, so it's not a problem of selling the wine. But I think in terms of characteristics, 16 was more down wine. 17, 18, especially in reds, I like the reds, very, very flavorful, which is not very common in the down. The down wines are not particularly well known for their flavor. It's more in terms of mouthfeel, structure, tannins that they show all their potential. But I like very much 16.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Sandra Alves.
I should say that for Alentejo, maybe for reds 2016 and 18, and for whites 2017. But I agree with Sandra, because I think they are all different, you know, and there's always a moment for this. And it's always a moment to think about, okay, why this tastes like this, you know, and you think, okay, because the year was like that and that. And that's very exciting and a very great exercise to make. So.
Yeah. Well, I think we're running out of time, but João Pedro, you had two ladies from the Douro giving their opinion. So do you want to break that tie and say, what is your favorite vintage in the Douro?
I do not dare to do that. They know too much about the Douro, much more than I do. But I would say that the best vintage is the one that you sell. And there are two kinds of I don't know, preferences, let's say it like this. It's the one that we producers prefer, and not always is the one that the consumer prefers. So I would vote for the one that the consumers prefer rather than the ones that we prefer.
So now everybody attending this seminar, you know, the Portuguese are not only great winemakers, but they are great diplomats as well. So they will never say the wrong thing. So Christian, thank you all. Christian, if you have some final remarks.
Thank you.
Great. Yes. Well, thank you, Eugenio. Thank you to all the winemakers. What a great presentation, and thank you so much for sharing your beautiful wines with us today. I think you have some really passionate and enthusiast people who joined us today about Portuguese wine. So thank you so much for that, and the deeper insight into the vintages and everything happening in Portugal. Eugenio, thank you for a wonderful presentation. While we couldn't go there all physically together, I think I can speak for many of the participants today. We feel like we were there through those beautiful pictures and your beautiful presentation. And thank you to the Wines of Portugal for making this all possible. And last but definitely not least, thank you to all the participants who were able to join us today. We appreciate your enthusiasm for Portuguese wines. We will make this presentation available to you in a recorded format, so you will be able to rewatch this as well as have access to the slides that Eugenio presented today. In the meantime, we hope you drink Portuguese wines, you stay safe, and be kind. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.